What's up, guys? George Balecki here with Hold My Banner. But hey, check out the latest episode of Foxborough Rush, wherever you get your podcast. Everything Patriots, everything NFL. Keegan Stiefel and I go through the changes happening with the leadership in the locker room, what Robert Kraft, Mike Vrabel, and Ellie Wolf had to say about their new free agency class, and what the outlook of the defense is for the Patriots with who we know will be starting for them so far. That's Foxborough Rush. New episodes 3 days a week, wherever you get your podcast, but check out the newest episode of Foxborough Rush. Now, let's get to Banner. What's up? What's happening? It's Hold My Banner, one-stop shop, everything you need Celtics, everything you need NBA. George Balecki here hosting, and for my guy Travis Thomas with the walking, talking triple-double by way of LA. We got a special LA Connect in this show. Ante Campbell. Tay, how we doing, my man?
I'm doing great, George. I'm excited to talk about this LA Connect, so let's just get this thing rolling.
Let's get right to it. Natalie Nakase, she'll be the head coach of the Golden State Valkyries, 13th team in WNBA franchise history. League history, and they'll start next season. Here's the interview, Ante and Trav with Natalie Nakase.
All right, as you know, here on Hold My Banner, we like to give flowers to everyone who enhances the game of basketball. Basketball trailblazers, basketball ambassadors. Look no further than Natalie Nakase, new head coach of the Golden State Valkyries. Coach, welcome to Hold My Banner, and congratulations.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Now, Tay, you and Coach have a little bit of history here, Tay. So we'll quickly let you tell the story because I know you guys have history here, Tay. It all goes back to high school for you, right?
Yeah, so Coach Nat ran it, that's what we called her back then at least, She was out there helping out, coaching my high school basketball team out in Los Angeles at the time. And, man, I was just thinking about this walking in today. I was like, if I'd have had Coach Nat for 4 years, wow, I would have been, probably playing at UCLA where she played at, wow. You know what I'm saying? So, but us high school guys would have been lucky to have such a bright talent for that long. We were just lucky enough to have her for the time that we had her. So, yeah, shout out to you, Coach Nat.
No, that's just being way too generous. I just remember being in your guys' space, and Ryan Bailey, a friend of mine, he just allowed me to be in your guys' space and to work with you guys. I think I actually wanted to work out myself too and get in shape. And you guys buzzed my ass. So no, I appreciate it. It was like just great energy, and what I liked is that you guys were super collaborative, and I really enjoyed being there.
Okay, well, I like to go back to the beginning for you here. You were a hooper yourself. You grew up in Orange County, Cali. Let's go back to the beginning. Talk to me about you, the player, and how it all started growing up there.
Yeah, so I grew up playing basketball basically because of my dad. My dad just loved basketball. He had 3 daughters, and so he's like, can I cuss on the show?
Yes, say what you need to say.
We ain't live. Let it fly.
My dad was like I wanted a boy. I was the third kid, and so I was supposed to be Nathan. And so when I came out, I think my dad was like, God damn, wanted more. But so anyways, regardless, he still trained us like 3 professional athletes wanting to go pro, even if we didn't want to go pro. But no, I think the biggest memory I have from just my dad training us was the fact that he always challenged me. So whatever team I was on, he always made sure I was like the worst player. So as soon as I got good around like 9 or 10, he threw me in with the boys. He was like, go play with these boys, let them bust your ass, or you try to bust their ass, something. But because he always wanted me to kind of go through adversity and see how I get through it. And then in high school, it was like, okay, you're going to play against grown-ass women now. I want to see you again, go from the bottom and try to work your way up. And I think that was just such a, key moment I didn't know what was happening, what my dad was doing. But now as I look back, I'm like, I see why I love challenges.
Yeah, and it definitely showed. Look, I know Travis wants to ask you about UCLA because he's got even more of a UCLA connection with me, but I got to tell you really quickly, when she was playing against us, It showed that she was ready to be physical with the boys no matter what. So she was busting our ass, as she was saying. So respect to you, coaching that once again. But, yeah, Travis, ask her about UCLA.
Well, I mean, I can wait on UCLA. At this point now, I need a scouting report. What kind of player were you back then compared to now? Because if he's saying physical now, I can only imagine what you were doing back then. So give me a scouting report, and then we'll get more back into the path of how you ended up a Bruin.
So you can't see here, but I'm 5'1" and 3/4. And I own that 3/4. Like, I don't like to make myself like, oh, I'm 5'2" with shoes. No, I'm 5'1" 3/4. Like, let's not get twisted. And so my dad always said, if you're going to be one of the smaller players, you got to be the smartest. So I felt that then being was probably going to be an upside to my game. So whatever advantage I could create with, like, if someone goes to rebound, I can't jump with you guys, So whether if I could step on your foot, like something like that. And then if I had to guard someone really talented, and you guys were all faster than me and quicker than me. So like when you go up for a shot, and if I could quickly like hit you in the stomach, you know what I mean? Like, you would think every time you shoot it against me that there might be some type of physical contact, and like I could put fear into your eyes because there's no way I'm blocking you guys. So I had to have quick hands, be in great shape, but be dirty. That was part of it. Yeah.
Okay, well then I'm sure that plays into this question because my wife is a Bruin, so I know how important UCLA is to the sports world, quite frankly. How did you end up there? Because in learning about your story, it was fascinating to me. You were not heavily recruited, and you walked on to UCLA. So I need this whole story because I think that says a lot about your character and even the way you talked about yourself as a player doing kind of whatever it takes. I mean, I have to imagine that it took a lot of fire to be able to walk on at a place like UCLA. So tell me about that.
So I was just asked this question, like, how did you feel when you weren't being recruited by like the UCLAs and the big name schools? The UConn was still, the best at that time. And my answer was, I thought all the coaches were crazy. Like, I didn't want to say not intelligent. I just think like, you're missing out on a great player here. But it was just because of my size. Like that's what was the ongoing thing was like, look, she's too small. There's no way she's going to play Division I. But I knew I could play because in club basketball, I was beating half these girls that were getting, signed to big schools.
Right.
So that's when I knew. So, yeah, so I was offered a scholarship to UCI, a coach that, again, like I didn't know, but it was really weird getting a call from him at 16, 17 years old and said, hey, if you come here, you could start. And that didn't feel good to me. Like my dad always preached, like, you have to earn everything, nothing's given. So I'm like, this is so weird that, coach is like offering and guaranteeing me a starting position. I didn't like it. I didn't like the feeling. So then I played really well in CIF. Long story short, like I couldn't miss. You guys all had those games where like the rim is like this big and like everything you threw up. Great game. Next thing I know, I get a phone call from Kathy Olivier at UCLA, and she said, look, she goes, would you like to walk on at UCLA? And I said, would I? I was and she's like, well, you're going to have to earn your scholarship every year. I said, that's it? Because, like I said, because I knew, like, my work ethic was, I think, one of the top to me. And then I knew I could play with those players. And so I said, once she sees me, she'll fall in love with me. So I took the more challenging route. I went with, like, the walk-on and let me prove you wrong that I could play there and I could start there and I could help you rather than go to UCI. It just was not attractive to me.
Yeah, I mean, that work ethic was always there, clearly. You even went on to be the first Asian American to play in the NWBL. What was that experience like for you? Like, it must have been a proud accomplishment from going on from UCLA, proving people wrong about who you were and your size and your stature, and then be able to be a pioneer for that league.
Yeah, so real honest transparency, like, I don't think about being the first. I just wanted to play basketball. Right. And that was the league. So I wanted to play in the W, but I wasn't drafted. So I'm like, what other league is around that I could continue to play basketball? And so then I tried out. It was kind of like the same situation. Like, let me prove you wrong. I know my work ethic is by far probably the top in this tryout, but also like I knew if I was the most conditioned player, that always sets the tone because then like defensively, I could last longer. I could just work everyone. So I just prepare, train really hard, and then just go for it. And then it ends up working out.
Well, you became a first your entire career, including coaching the Valkyries here. I want to go to you playing professionally overseas. So you end up in Germany. You said how the WNBA didn't work out. You end up in Germany. You're playing professionally, and then you injure your knee. Now, I know this was an entry point eventually into coaching. We'll go to that in a minute, but I want to stay with you as a player because you work hard, you prove all the doubters wrong, you do get to a professional stage and then you get hurt. What was sort of the darkest moment for you during that time? Was it injuring the knee, and how did you sort of overcome it and then eventually, end up in coaching?
As you get older, you start to realize everything happens for a reason. So this injury was definitely telling me, like, slow the down.
Yeah.
I was the type, and this is something that now I really take within my coaching, is like, if I had a sprained ankle in Germany, and then I kept playing on it when they told me not to, and then I tore my calf muscle on my other leg. And so I just because I wanted my work ethic, right? I was like, no, I can't just sit there, watch my teammates start doing sprints. I have to do it with them. And, I had to learn patience from it. So even if it was the darkest time, I could possibly say, like, was it the darkest time, or was it a learning curve for me that I have to learn to be patient, and I can't get everything like as quick as possible or when I want. And so I kind of flipped it, and it was like, Nat, slow down. Mm-hmm. Everything doesn't have to come quickly, and actually great things come to those who wait. So yeah, I kind of flipped it into a positive learning tool.
Yeah, and so what was the kind of decision to switch over from being a player to coaching? I know that's always a tough transition for people, realizing, hey, the playing days are over. When was that moment where you're like, okay, like I'm in, I'm all in, I'm coaching the future?
Yeah, so be careful what you wish for, and be careful what you say out loud. So I tore my ACL my freshman year at UCLA. I said I hated the rehab. I just really did. It was painful. I was a wuss, basically. And so I said, if I was ever going to go through this again, I'm like, I'll probably retire. Now I see these women, they just bust through 2 ACLs, 3 ACLs, and I stopped after 1, then tore my meniscus. And so be careful what you wish for, because I said it out loud. And then, so yeah, I just transitioned into coaching because that was the next best thing, to be in a gym as much as possible, like 24/7. So I didn't want to coach. I'm just being honest.
Yeah.
I wanted to play. So for those of you who are playing, play as long as you can. Like, it's the best job in the world. And then, so then it just it happened because I think I said it out loud. So you just have to be careful what you say.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, that's the power of our words. There's no doubt in that. You talked about playing against the men and pickup and all those kinds of things. You also have coached both men and women professionally. I just wonder, what's the biggest difference that you've noticed in coaching men and women, or is there?
I would say the athletes at like the highest level, they both have a very strong mindset. I think it's very similar of like how I want to be the best, how I prepare. I think what is happening now, I think the women's progression and skill level is improving faster. That I think it's true, because when I tried out, it was really good. It was a high level, but now as I'm like rebounding for these girls, like seeing them in a day-to-day, I'm like, wow, they shoot a lot better than me. So I think the skill level is improving. I think for anyone who's watched Chelsea Gray, if you guys are familiar with her game,
Yep.
She's the point guard for a reason. But if you ever watched her live last year, she would do just on her own, she would do a behind the back in transition on point to Asia Wilson at the rim, but she was at half court. She threw a behind the back pass at half court to Asia Wilson in stride, like with no problem.
Wow.
I mean, tell me who else is doing that on a day-to-day basis, men or women, it doesn't matter. Right. So this skill set of these women, and then you could I would like to reframe, like with Sabrina, the whole challenge with her and Curry, right? Name me other men that would like to challenge Curry on a one-on-one stage like that.
Right.
That's pretty impressive, right? And with that being her first time actually being in that stage, that's tough. But what didn't get talked about was she actually tied the score of Dame Lillard, who ended up winning that championship of the three-point contest. But technically, Sabrina actually tied the champion and had to go against Curry. So I think, to go back to your point, I think that the women are just like improving drastically with their skill set.
Yeah, they definitely are, and I've been excited to watch everything, WNBA adjacent, Unrivaled, all of that other stuff. I also remember when I was a little bit younger, maybe a couple years after I ended up meeting up with you in high school, watching those Clippers teams that you were a part of. What was kind of your feeling being a part of that Clippers organization, kind of your first NBA gig, and what did you think was kind of the moment where you sat down and you realized, like, whoa, once again, another first getting checked off the list for you?
There's no checklist. There isn't a checklist. Honestly, it's just what I really love to do. If you guys ever talk to me on a day-to-day, this is all I talk about. This is all. I breathe basketball. I live basketball. I have ESPN on right now. I have my coaches texting me about some plays that we're going to run that we saw last night. You know, like it's all I do, and it's what I love to do. And I think the first just kind of falls into place. And so I think maybe something that I do that's a little bit different is like I really block out the noise. I block out the distractions. I think I'm really good at that because when I was 10 years old, my dad basically said, like, never give a F about what people think. And that stuck really, really hard at 10 years old. And so from then, whenever I had a goal, it was like, I don't have to care, you know, which people kind of naturally do. It's human nature to kind of care about people's opinions and stuff like that. But when my dad taught me that at a young age, because he would see that in my body language or my frustration, or if I was crying, he's like, what are you thinking about? And if I told him why, it's because, I heard this parent say this about me, or I heard this, girls talk shit about me. He's like, them. He was just like, only, focus on what you believe, focus on yourself, believe in yourself, and then forget the rest, Nat. Focus on your goal. So
I think that's just a great message in general. You know, some people do it in reverse order. Some people as kids are kind of people pleasers and trying to make everyone like them and make everyone happy. And then life sort of forms them to where they more have the attitude you're talking about. So I think it was a real advantage for you to get it early in life and have that carry you through your life. Also, hearing you talk about being a hoops junkie the way you are, I just want you to know, and I mean this, you have a home here on Hold My Banner because you already know Ante Campbell himself is a baller. You watched it, you helped cultivate it. But although I'm not athletic, I too am a hoops junkie. So you have a home here, Coach. We want you on all the time.
In just a moment, hear about Natalie Nakase and how she coached with Doc Rivers, what she picked up from him, and also how she landed the Valkyries head coaching job. But also, check out Respect Her Game, from Simone Biles to Caitlin Clark to all top stories in sports. We got you covered with our Nesson's Women in Sports podcast, Respect Her Game. You can find it on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, and wherever else you get your podcasts.
In fact, I would love, since you coached at the Clippers for a while there, I'd love a Doc Rivers story. I know you coached with him, and people around here, Doc is beloved forever because he brought a championship here to Boston. Give us a Doc Rivers story if you don't mind.
Gosh, Doc Rivers. No, I mean, he's the guy who gave me my voice. In all honesty, yeah. So I was very lucky. As NBA coaches shift pretty quickly. Vinny Del Negro, shout out to him. He hired me, and then when he got let go, Doc he kept me on. Obviously, being an intern in video, that's probably the most likely job to keep because we don't get paid. So it wasn't a big thing for him to keep me. But anyways, after I'd probably say my third or fourth year with Doc, I think it kind of eventually came out as they asked what my goal was, and I said I wanted to be a head coach. So it was one day in practice, and my whole thing with me holding the board was that I always got to stand really close to Doc. So I did stuff very intentionally so I could hear Doc, and anytime he needed the board, he would scream. So I had to make sure I was standing really close to him if I didn't give it to him quickly. So I just remember we're scrimmaging one time, and then we were down by 3, and I gave him the board, and he just basically said, and by the way, I was still doing video at the time, and he basically said, hey, Nat, he goes, when you're a head coach one day, he was like, I want you to run this defense. He goes, it works every time. And I know maybe to you guys that sounded super simple, but for me to hear Doc say, when you're going to be a NBA head coach one day, that was powerful. Like really powerful. And at the time it was just me and Becky who was the females in the NBA. So it was like females were unheard of being in the NBA, but to hear your mentor say that to me, my confidence just skyrocketed from there. So really grateful for him.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you talked about Becky, because that's exactly where I was going. You know, you guys are both trailblazers. You ended up working for Becky with the Aces. What was that relationship like for you to work with Becky, you know, in the NBA, now in the WNBA? And what was that moment kind of where you were with the Aces, and what was just that like?
It was, I would say, to be more personal, it was kind of like Becky was like an angel in disguise for me. It was, you know, as I talk about my dad, it was my dad passed away the year before. So I was very fortunate to land in her hands. Like, she literally called me and she was like, hey, she's like, I would love for you to join my staff. But I didn't know Becky, right? Like, we're competitors. She was on the Spurs. I was with the Clippers. So we battled a lot in playoffs. So she was kind of like the enemy. And so being on the phone with her, I was like, how is this going to go? I've respected her from afar, but I always thought she was the enemy because we hated the Spurs. But just, you know, we picked each other's brain. We went through both of like being a female in the NBA. So many similar stories, but the biggest question Becky asked me was, how are you doing as a person? And I like froze. I had to explain to her what was going on, and she just kind of gave me that space, and she was just like, Nat, she's like, you're going to be in good hands here. And she's like, I think we can make, you know, really big waves in the W. And so I didn't even hesitate after that when she asked me how I was doing as a person.
I'm sorry about your loss too. You know, I've lost a parent, so I know what that pain feels like. And hearing you sort of say that about Becky and bringing that human element to it, I actually think that's what your best leaders in any industry, I think that's what your best leaders are able to do. So I think it's very fitting that you're a head coach now, and I imagine you try to bring that same brevity to your position as well, right? Because you're a leader.
Yeah, that's actually it's a great insight. Like, I think going through, I have to say it, but trauma, going through really, really tough times, I think kind of gives you a little bit more perspective about now the game of basketball is just the game of basketball. And there's so many more things in this world that people are going through, that people are struggling. But if we can make basketball as simple as possible in a place where we enjoy it, then I think it comes super light and super fun.
No doubt. That's well said. All right, let's go back to the beginning for the Aces. How did that job even sort of present itself? How did you transition from one thing to the next there?
So from the Clippers to the Aces?
Yes.
Is that what you mean? Yeah. So yeah, just Becky making that phone call. It was just literally like a call from an angel helping me in a tough situation. So, and another thing too, like, I love being in LA. I was there for 10 years under Vinny, Doc, and Tyronn Lue. And so honestly, moving away from everything that I remember with my dad living in Southern California definitely helped me. Like, as I go back to, I apologize, but I'm literally talking about how I was feeling and how emotionally I needed to move. I needed to get out of all the memories that I saw, you know, with my dad on every gym we went to, or, you know, every gym. That's all we did. We just played basketball. But yeah, I just moving actually has really helped me, I think, mentally. So.
Yeah, and then, of course, before we move on to the Valkyries, we got to ask about that chip. What was it like winning a championship in the WNBA?
Yeah, so it's two, actually. I don't know if you guys.
We knew that. You didn't have to flex on us like that, okay? You didn't have to do us like that, all right?
I'm like, dude, okay. No, it was the first year was a sigh of relief. Like, we were ranked 6th, I think, going in, and so I think us as a coach staff, me and Becky, were like, man, that's an insult. like that we took that as obviously some internal motivation. But I just remember again, for Becky herself, like she's an amazing coach, even better person. I think that's why the buy-in was so quick, because she's just really authentic and she really cares about people. So the buy-in was quick. But also I think Becky was kind of showing like, look, I could coach. Y'all keep interviewing me here in the NBA. I can coach, and I learned so much from her. But what we really learned is like we worked our asses off that first year. Like again, all coaches not knowing the W, like we did it. I didn't even. Sorry to say, I love Asia Wilson, but I didn't know Asia Wilson. Like once you're in the NBA, you're just so like NBA, right? So learning the whole new league, a whole new system, a whole new way of less games, quicker games. So it was just a sigh of relief. I remember we hugged each other and embraced each other because we worked so hard that first year. Just because I think people were thinking we were just coming here just to coach, but no, we were there to show like we could coach. So.
And I know you don't have a checklist, but this is another one of those first, Coach, where you become the first Asian American to win a WNBA title. And clearly in the moment, you're focused on the job you need to do to get those championships. But now that you kind of sit back, you're at a new place, you have a new opportunity, and you can reflect on things like this. Can you speak to us about what it means to you and what kind of weight that holds and how you inspire people?
No, not really. Because I think the minute you start thinking and settling so much, I think that's when the opponents start to like gain traction. I just think in sports, when you constantly want to win, that you don't get time to sit here and reflect. And I think the parade itself, I'll say the two parades to me was like the greatest time I got to celebrate. But once I was done with the parade, I was like, let's go. What's next? So once I took this job, I was like, okay, I got to hire my staff, but I also got to create, the best team possible for us to win. And so to be honest, you don't sit and reflect a lot. And when you do, other people are going to be outworking you. So you might start working.
And look, that's why we love you, Coach, and that's why the Valkyries must have loved you too. Can you just talk to us a little bit how that opportunity ended up presenting yourself, now getting the opportunity to be the first head coach of the Golden State Valkyries?
Yes, so our GM, Ohema, we go back about 7 years. Met her at a women's conference in the NBA and had lunch with her. Just connected. And when you meet somebody for the first time and they really make you feel like they're your best friend, she did that within an hour. And so we only really did that another time. She was an assistant GM with New York Liberty when I was with the Aces. And so we probably did it one more time. We would text back and forth about any random thing. And then when she got the job, she hit me and she was like, is this something you want to do? And I'm like, are you for real? Like I was shocked. But at the same time, big thing that Doc Rivers, Tyronn Lue taught me was like loyalty. So the minute I got the call, I was conflicted. I was like, wow, what a great opportunity. But at the same time, I'm with the Las Vegas Aces trying to go for chip number 3.
Right.
Yeah.
Two.
You already got 2. Right. So you try to get number 3. I got you. Yeah. 100%.
Just bring it up more time. We were going for chip 3, and so I in any way, like I wanted to stay loyal with for Becky and the Aces, and so conflicted, but at the same time, obviously, it worked out, and here I am.
That's really cool, your relationship with your GM. I actually know that feeling. The first time Ante and I met, I felt like we were BFFs immediately. Now, I think he may just feel sorry for me, and that's why we're tight. But we're tight nonetheless, Coach, so I'll take it. Your owner, Joe Lacob, talked about how the Valkyries present sort of a unique challenge because it's a lot like a startup business. I mean, do you see it that way as well? An expansion team, it's always very difficult to kind of get off the ground. So I understood his theory and where he was going there. Can you talk to us about the challenges that presents itself for you in your position as a first head coach?
Yeah, I think instead of like hearing the word challenge, I think it's always good to say, hey, well, at least you get an opportunity. Like, I have an opportunity, to be in this seat. I mean, there's probably a million other candidates that are just as qualified, but they chose me, and so I'm taking on his challenge. But what he did say in my press conference was, I have to win in 5 years. So I don't know if you guys heard that. He said it multiple times. He said it in my interview.
No pressure.
He said it in my interview. Right, but instead of pressure, it's like, hey, that's an opportunity.
Yeah.
To me, Joe Lacob is one of the best owners in sports. How he has won 4 championships under his ownership with the Warriors. I mean, that shows a lot to me. The way he talks, the way he works, the way he pushes himself. I knew I was going to be in good hands because he's going to also just provide me with the resources that we can get there. So it wasn't like, okay, hey, here you go, like, try to win 5. It's like, well, what do you need? So I think that's a completely different, situation where, like, he's actually setting me up for success. So instead of feeling the pressure, I'm like, no, Joe is going to set me up for success. And now how can I, be the best version, as a head coach in this space to make sure we get our goals.
In just a moment here, Natalie Nakase talking about shadowing Joe Mazzulla and what she picked up from observing a practice with him. But first, you want to hear all about Boston sports? Check out Nesson's Daily Sports Podcast. Boston has entered the chat. You can enter the conversation by tweeting at us using the hashtag NessonChat or email the chat@nesson.com or leave a comment on YouTube. That's Boston has entered the chat. New episodes dropping every Monday through Friday, wherever you get your podcasts.
Yeah, you talked about winning 1 and 5, and that's going to be definitely a challenge, and it's a challenge that I think you're ready for.
Yep.
But, what do you ultimately want your legacy to be as the Golden State Valkyries head coach? And also, what kind of team, what kind of basketball are we expecting from the Valkyries in their inaugural season?
So, I mean, I got hired yesterday to me, so, like, legacy is, I mean, come on, like, legacy, that's, that to me is like winning multiple championships. I think that would be a legacy. But no, I think for sure, though, being in this position, I do want to impact like our athletes' lives. So I think it's important, like, as I said, the skill set's going up, the viewership is going up. We have a new CBA coming up. If I can impact in any way to help our athletes' lives better, number 1, financially for themselves, number 2, for their family, and number 3, for their kids' families. Like, if I can impact that in any way, I think to me that kind of says legacy for me, if I could do that.
That's a fantastic answer. I wonder, because I've seen publicly the Warriors, the Golden State Warriors, be very supportive of the Valkyries. But I wonder, have you been able to get, like, to maybe pick a Steve Kerr brain? Have you guys talked? Like, has he given you any insight into coaching, or is Steph and Draymond and those guys involved? Is there have you built like really good relationships with the team right there in town on the NBA side?
Yeah, so it's definitely coming. I literally have slotted actually time this week. It's funny because like you're actually predicting my schedule this week, but because they're at a homestand and I'm actually here at the same time, it hasn't actually worked out too well with the scheduling of where I've been kind of moving for this position. But this week is actually the time I think I'm going to be able to sit down, talk to the coaches, watch practice. Obviously, been to a ton of games, and I think for everyone who knows who's worked in the NBA, like you want to make sure you give that space and respect during the games. But yeah, like I'm excited to pick his brain. I mean, 4 championships. I mean, what better coach? Then you have Jerry Stackhouse, who I've known for a really long time. Terry Stotts. I mean, this staff is like loaded. So I'm excited. But I have shadowed. I have been to Boston. Like, I actually have shadowed Joe Mazzulla a little bit because my connection with him. Yeah.
Oh, hold on. Follow up. Tell us about that, Coach. You can't just gloss over that. I
mean, I think to keep it short and sweet, the reason why I wanted to shadow him was because he was the youngest coach in NBA history to win a championship.
Right.
If that doesn't stand out, to me, that was pretty much like, how in the hell did you do that?
Yeah.
You know? And so for someone being young as well, I admired that. You know, I admired someone who coached players that are very similar to their age. That to me is very, very tough. It's very tough to gain the respect and the authority that, you know, coaches normally, you know, come with. And so, and just the way he even got, you know, the job, like that's just, it's just all very tough, you know, situations that I really kind of wanted to pick his brain. And what I learned by shadowing and talking to everyone on his staff is like, they're just very well connected. Mm-hmm. I think that was the beauty. What I saw was the practice that I was able to watch was, I didn't know what coach was number one, number two, number three. Obviously, I know Sam Cassell, who's a close friend of mine, but I couldn't tell. And I think with that type of camaraderie, I think that's really special. I think that shows a lot about his staff and like how they gel together. And I think that feeds into the players.
It definitely does. We talk about it on this show all the time of it doesn't look the way people think championship teams do. You're supposed to have this one star who gets the ball in the clutch moments and says everyone out of the way and they close the show and all this. But it truly is a culture of we, not me, with the Celtics, and they're winning that way. I mean, as you sort of, I know you've been busy, but I'm sure you have your eyes on the NBA as well as you sort of watch them this season, Coach. To us, it feels like a repeat is inevitable. I mean, do you see this team repeating as champions again?
I mean, for us, since we couldn't three-peat, sorry, last time I'll say that, since we couldn't three-peat, it's hard. You need a lot of things to kind of go your way. Health is number one. That's the biggest thing to me. I think they're playing great basketball right now. I think a lot of teams, especially in the NBA, it's 82 games. That's a lot of games.
Yeah, it is.
To be able to maintain their type of motivation and togetherness and all attention to all details, because I know he talks about that a lot. I think, credit to the coaching staff and honestly the players too, like to be able to continue to sustain that and to play consistent, because I know they're going through some tough moments, but they're playing together at the right time. So I wish them luck. Obviously I'm supporting, but come on, like Warriors too that's my squad.
Fair enough. Look, Coach, I want to bring it back. I want to bring it back to the WNBA. Look, other than the players on your team, look, we know about Kate Martin, huge fan favorite. Kayla Thornton, UTEP in the house, you know what I'm saying? Veronica Burton, we had her, in the New England area last year.
Yep.
But other than the players on your team, other than some of the players that you coach on the Aces, who are some of the players around the league that you kind of have an affinity for?
Great question.
I would say.
I mean, I think for anyone who's coached, it's like you'll never know a player until you coach them.
Yeah.
So I could literally only talk about, the Aces. And honestly, everyone on the Aces I've connected, with when I was there. And I'll be connected for life, because Doc Rivers, famous quote is, when you win a championship, there's a blood transfusion that goes through you and that you'll have for life. So I'm going to keep my favorites. They're all great. Everyone has, as you guys know, with Boston, like everyone contributes to the championship. So it doesn't matter if Sydney Colson, Asia Wilson, Chelsea Gray, Jackie Young, Kelsey Plum. I mean, everyone contributes in a way, and there's no way if you take one piece out, there's no way we win those back-to-back championships.
No doubt. I think one of the reasons that WNBA is in such great shape, not only right now for the present, but for the future, is because it has stars all around the league. Mm-hmm. I don't know if any are brighter than Caitlin Clark. I mean, we saw the effect she had on the college game, Coach, and that translated right over to the WNBA as well. What do you see there? I mean, obviously the star power, speak to that too, but even on the court, because I saw as the season went on in her rookie campaign, she got better and better, and we saw a lot of toughness and grit in her too. What do you sort of see in her impact on the WNBA and the women's game in general, but but also on the court scouting report wise. Where do you see the growth in her game?
Number one, she's probably, from just the fact that she can shoot logo threes, means she's probably one of the hardest workers, right? Like and Curry, that's what I'm saying, with the skill set right now, who is shooting those logo threes?
Right.
So there has to be some type of consistent work ethic or an obsessive work ethic for her. So kudos to her. Like, that just doesn't happen overnight. I think what doesn't get talked about with the struggles is the fact that, if you guys know, as soon as college ends and you go till the end, you have about a good 20 days to flip that around, and now you're in training camp. Unlike the NBA. The NBA, you get a whole offseason, you get summer league, you get combine, you get draft workouts. So credit to Caitlin and credit to all of the college players that transition. They go right in. Kate Martin went right in. And so the struggles could be real because of the overload that we put through these players, the attention that she gets. I think overall her game is that she's just getting used to, like, seeing the different defenses that she was faced compared to college. The physicality, the athleticism is real in the W. So that's why it's really hard for players, to really make an impact their first year. But the biggest thing that was impressive to me about Caitlin is how she handled herself in media. I don't think, I can tell you myself, I don't know if I could have done what she's done. If you kind of go and look back at majority of things, she's really well thought out, I think. She kind of keeps her emotions intact, and I think she really speaks more logically, and she always helps to improve the game and give credit to her teammates. I think that's kind of been her staple, because with that much attention at, I don't know how old Caitlin is, but at 22, 20, that's incredibly tough to have the whole world, asking you what you do every single day, but also you're on ESPN every single day.
Right.
That's tough.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is tough. The last question, because you're a very busy woman.
Yes.
I know you got to run, but look, what would you like to see happen to now push the women's game forward in the future?
That's a good question. I think, from a coach's perspective, I think our rosters have to grow. 12 players is tough for a 44-game season. NBA, I think it's 18. So 12. So player gets sick, player gets injured, player gets in foul trouble. You're sitting there with not a lot of players, and then you have to practice, and you do have a full squad, but you don't have a full squad. So I hope the rosters, they grow. I think that's going to be key, because if you want a great product, then I think we always talk about health, right? Then we want our stars to be healthy. So I think that's going to be really key. I think the viewership's going to go up. I think hopefully, I'm praying, like, salaries, obviously go up, and I think the women deserve the number that hopefully it grows. But I also think these women are incredibly inspiring. And so I think hearing their story and getting to know these players, I hope the whole world just falls in love with them.
Natalie Nakase, a trailblazer for the game of basketball, the first ever head coach of the Golden State Valkyries. We really appreciate you coming on, and I hope you take to heart what we're telling you. Come back, talk hoops with us anytime you want. You have a home here. I know as much as you love basketball, you love like-minded individuals like us, so please come back and join us again. We appreciate you, Coach, and good luck in your first season.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, you guys.
In just a moment, we'll be talking about the Celtics and Thunder round 2 and what that means for the postseason and finals, as we expect that matchup. But first, stream the entire Sox season with the NESN 360 annual plan, available at an all-new reduced price of just $20 a month paid annually. And for a limited time, get 4 free tickets to Fenway with your purchase. 4 free tickets to Fenway with your purchase. Visit NESN360.com to sign up today. Hey, Tay, awesome combo. Shout out Natalie Nakase stopping by the show. What a link, too, bro. Coached you at Brentwood for a summer, now the head coach of the Valkyries. The hoop world's a small world, Ante.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. And I ran into a lot of people that I knew from those high school days. Actually, at this game that we're going to talk about, Celtics dropping a championship level matchup, MVP level matchup, 118 to 112 to the Thunder. George, what did you feel about that Celtics loss the other night?
Yeah, I love you point out that they dropped it. It was a 106-102 game, 4 minutes left. Jaylen Brown fouls out, and he had 0 free throws in this game. And he finished with just 10 points. What I liked about Brown, though, is as much as he was struggling from the field, as much as he wasn't getting calls and getting to the line, he was still attacking the basket late. Like, he had that posterizing dunk, come back on the other end. Tatum looked phenomenal as always, man. 33, 8, and 8. It's cool to watch Jason Tatum and SGA matchup, Ante, where they're the drivers of the offense. They initiate the offense, and they're the best scorers on the offense.
Yeah.
And with a similar type of tempo game, like they're going to play their style. They're going to play their pace. It's not the craziest athleticism you'll see, but it's so damn skilled, so technical. They're both surgeons. But what was big to me was the adjustment by the Thunder, Ante.
Yeah.
We see the Celtics come out, and they're doing what they want to do. Barrage from three, get up big, continue to hit their shots. And watching mid-third quarter to the rest of the way, what I noticed were how the Thunder were blitzing the ball handlers for the Celtics. Second they passed midcourt, it would be 2 on Tatum, 2 on Brown, basically get the ball out of their hand. But instead of rotating, it would be this extra defender on the blitz would drop back to the guy they're defending. Basically, they didn't let them get comfortable at all. And we saw the Celtics go 5 for 27 from deep in the second half. This whole matchup, Ante, is still a law of averages. You and I picked Celtics Thunder in the finals. I still think it's Celtics in 6. But it comes down to, can the Thunder sustain that defensive intensity in the finals on that level after a postseason run?
Yeah.
Can the Celtics sustain hitting it from 3, continue to have the high volume shooting, but have more nights where they'll hit them than not? And the biggest thing in all this, Ante, we haven't seen Kristaps Porzingis for now 7 straight games. What are we going to get from him? He has an illness, man. This is what worries me. You hear about illnesses before the season setting guys back. You're going to, like, are you losing weight? How are you feeling? How are you going to be? It's going to be postseason basketball, physically, mentally, emotionally. That's a lot.
Yep.
And think of the losses to the Cavs too, Tay. No Drew, no KP in those, no KP in this one. I still don't know what we have with the Celtics team, and we won't know until we get to the playoffs.
I mean, yeah, you're right. I have some B-roll that I want to show off while we're talking about this. But look, here's the thing about this game in this situation, right? No KP, like you said. No Alex Caruso. No Jalen Williams for the Thunder, right? And everyone's now all up in arms saying that the Thunder should be favored now because they're 2-0 in this series against the Celtics this season. And I think, once again, I was with you, George. I was Thunder to the finals. That was what I thought. But at the end of the day, I still think the Celtics team is better. And I know there's a question marks about, Drew's weird hand injury, you know what I mean? Question marks about KP's health, 100%. But the thing about it is that the Celtics are the champions, and they have championship experience and championship pedigree with a coach that's been there now, with the players that have been there and won now, and that's going to carry them if we do end up getting this series. So it's going to be a great series if we hopefully get it. I know we're all pining for it, but, it's still going to be Celtics in 6 on this one.
Man, I want it. I still think it's Celtics in 6. What stands out to me about this Thunder team, though, is like the depth of ball handlers they have. And no Jalen Williams for them, which, like, you could say it's your second best player.
Yeah.
But it's like when you have Carson Wallace attacking the basket, when you have Kendrick Williams from the corner hitting threes, they're not as big as the Celtics defensively. Like, they have a lot of 6'3", 6'2", 6'4 guys.
Yeah.
Where the Celtics, I feel like it's like bare minimum, get in the door, you got to be 6'6" and thick. But they still have the multiple ball handlers where SGA is not afraid to push it. They can hunt mismatches just like Boston, where if it is a Wallace on a Horford, he'll blow by him.
Yeah.
The Celtics still look sluggish defensively, and I don't think you'll get that from them in the postseason. That's the big thing. Like, some baskets they were getting, it was like, all right, where's the rotation? Where's the recovery?
Yeah.
Hartenstein's doing a good job with off-ball screens. Chet understands his role. Like, the Thunder are so good playing as 5 on the floor at all times, like seeing the same thing, feeling the same thing, and playing off of SGA. The Celtics do the same thing with Tatum.
Yep.
It's just, it's still not the best from the Thunder, but it was well below what the Celtics' best is.
Yeah, and look, you got to shout out Mark Daigneault for that. He threw a zone out, a 2-3 zone, much of the second half of that game, which helped create that situation, right? It helped create that separation. And you also have to understand that he was like, okay, you guys want to shoot threes? We're going to allow you to shoot threes, but we're going to make them tough on your good shooters. You know what I'm saying? So the Celtics had a career high, organization high, 63 attempts from 3 in that game, so that's an organization record. And basically the Thunder were like, yeah, can you do that for a whole game and beat us? And, they were right. Look, before we switch over real quick, did you see this? SGA had his logo all around Boston. Shout out to Mark Spears for this. It was over on TD Garden and on the
Prudential Center. Yep.
Yeah, that was crazy. So I just wanted to show you that real quick before we move on, because I'm like, now it's just going to be ammo for the Jays. They're going to come in all spicy mouth. But look, real quick before we end the show, Nets and Heat are next up. We got Heat on Friday, 2 games against the Nets on Saturday and Tuesday. What do you think about these 2 upcoming games? Quick.
Heat, man, they've lost 5 straight. Nets have lost 8 of the last 9, but look at the back-to-back. I'm not worried about anything, man. Like, these are just like, they're not even cockroaches. These are just like ants that you got to step over. So,
all right, bro. At least the Nets will play them close. I think one of those Nets games might be a scary. I think they're blowing. I won't say blowout. They'll beat the Heat by more than 10. They'll beat the Nets by more than 10 in one of those games, and then we'll probably get a real scary one. Tatum will probably sit out, or JB, or both. And they'll get a scary. This team did beat the Lakers without LeBron, so you have to give them a little bit of respect with the Nets.
A little bit. We'll give it to him. He's Ante Campbell. I'm George Belecci. This is Hold My Banner. Shout out Natalie Nakase for stopping by the show. Talking hoop. Always appreciate the love. Shout out to WNBA for getting that franchise. Shout out to you guys making us a part of your day. New episodes of Hold My Banner coming next week. We'll see you guys then.
Peace.